This is a Public Utility Board meeting. Thank you. At this time, we're going to move to the consent agenda. As I've stated before, as we move through the items that have.
Sorry, I'm going to jump in really quickly. We got a notice saying people can't hear us.
I can hear you now.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you, but the boardroom is not on visual, but that's not a big deal, but I can hear you all now.
Okay, so I guess we're back on. We have a consent agenda items, and again, these items are items that have already been, in some cases reviewed. In some cases, they've been reviewed by Dr. Holman and I as we meet with administration. But if there's any questions on any of the consent agenda items, now's the time to discuss or to pull an item. Okay, if not, we're going to move on to items for individual. Okay, let me have a motion. I'm sorry. A motion to pass
the consent agenda. Second.
Right. We have a motion to approve by Dr. Holman, second by Mr. Sampaio. All those in favor to approve the consent item?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Item passes unanimously. Items for individual consideration. We're going to have the general manager report. Ms. Gilbert.
So just reading the items that we have right now for the general manager's report, we have the board calendar, the financial report, engineering and legal fees, the City of Brownsville capital work orders report, the BTX project installation, my update. The last one on there, AMI update, we have it for information as requested by the board. It's up to the board to decide if we want to go ahead and do the presentation at this time. So with that, we'll start with board calendar. On board calendar, you have all of the items on there noted. We did have an SRWA meeting earlier today. We'll be having our next SRWA board meeting on October the 2nd. We have the next PUB board meeting October the 9th, and then the PubCap meeting October the 18th. We also have this month the PubCap meeting on September the 20th. One thing to also note is that we do have a little bit of board travel, and any of you are welcome to also attend on Monday. And so that's for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We have a meeting that we're going to be doing it. So it's tentatively be held in Galveston at 1 p.m. So it's noted on your calendar as well. We do have noted in November the Veterans Day holiday and also Thanksgiving holiday. Any questions on board calendar? All right. So with that, we'll move on to the next item on there, and Monica will be presenting. Monica Garza.
Good afternoon, Monica Cavazos, Director of Finance. I'll be presenting the financials as of the end of July. We'll be focusing on the far right column, the year-to-date numbers. You'll see that we had on line 5 total operating, well, below line 5 total operating revenues of $193,356,654. From this, we back out our total operating expenses of $161,049,358. Left us operating income of $32,307,296. We then back out our net non-operating expenses of 46,400, a negative $46,484,942. Left us income before capital contributions of a minus 14,177,000. We then add our capital contributions of 3,998,922. Gives us a change in net position of a minus $10,178,724. When added to the net position at the beginning of the year, the $445,310,943 gives us a net position at the end of the period of $435,132,219. Moving on to our flow of funds, when you look at line 20, you see that we generated sufficient revenues to cover our balance available for transfers out of $23,460,343. This covered our transfers to the operating subaccount for fuel of $2,136,244. The improvement fund, CIP funding of $7,423,679, and a fund for recycling of $299,824. For total transfers of $9,859,747, leaves us improvement fund surplus year to date as of July of $13,600,596. That's it for the financial presentation, unless there are any questions on the finances.
Any questions for the board?
No.
Okay, thank you, Monica.
Next item is also me. Moving on to the engineering fees. And you'll see that we had a budget of $3,205,714. That is for both O&M and capital projects. Our year-to-date actuals through July is $2,006,702.
What page are you looking at?
It's in your packets. We don't project these, but they're in tabs 1C in your packet. Again, year-to-date actuals of $2,006,702 leaves us a budget balance as of the end of July of $1,199,012. Those are the engineering fees for the year-to-date. Moving on to legal fees. We have a budget for the legal fees of $1,860,474. Again, that's for both O&M and capital. We have year-to-date actuals through July of $901,044, which leaves us a budget balance available of $959,430. Any questions on the legal fees?
Any questions from the board members? Okay.
And then my last item is the capital work orders and transfers information for the city of Brownsville. The top portion of the worksheet shows you a 5-year history of the capital work orders that we've done for the city of Brownsville. And then the middle is for this year. We have $18,108.73 in services that we've billed that are still pending. But our CFO is working with the city's finance group as well on updating an MOU to address those issues. And then the bottom table shows the transfers to the city by utility, and we did include a separate line item to show the Resaca fees as well. So it shows what their usage is for electric, water, and wastewater, what their cash transfer is from each of the 3 utilities, and then their total gross transfer. So you see that their usage year to date is $5,025,174. Their cash transfer has been $8,432,653, or gross transfer of $13,457,827, and that is again as of the end of July. Any questions on the city transfer?
Sorry, we can go back a little bit. I do have a quick question on the legal fees. Can you charge difference between the previous years and this year on grand total legal fees?
Oh, on legal fees, I'm sorry. Yeah, so we have had significant savings this year in legal fees. Some of that has to do with the transition from one firm to another. And so just, there was a transition period where there was less activity in legal fees. And then another portion of that is that the executive team has been reviewing all of the requests for legal services, and they have to authorize anything before we seek legal services, any of the staff, the executive team has to approve that. And so they're able to identify if there's something that probably more likely can be handled in-house by staff with our experience or with, previous information that we've got. We can take care of some things in-house versus seeking legal counsel, outside legal counsel. And then there have been some negotiated rates in that with legal counsel. So we've seen significant savings this year over last year.
And we're very efficient.
Any other? Sorry. More efficient.
But
Thank you.
that is a good,
I
point. We
did-
do appreciate the fiscal discipline.
Thank you.
One quick question on the city transfer. We don't get any money from the city, right? It's just, we just give them the net.
You give them the net, correct.
So they don't pay for or in a way they do pay.
They're allowed, they are entitled to 10% of the adjusted gross revenues you'll see that in our financials. So their gross transfer is 10% of that. We then bill them for their utilities, but we back that out of their transfer, and then we send them the net amount in cash on a quarterly basis.
So they get like a credit, let's say.
So out of the 10% that they're entitled to, their gross transfer, we then use a portion of that to pay their utility bills, if you will, and that's in cash.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One other question. Sorry, Monica. Maybe once I get
No
the hang of this, I won't ask so much, but.
No problem.
So for item 1D, the first table there, I couldn't quite follow it. Could you explain it?
Is that on the city?
The work orders?
Yeah, because it says unbilled services so I guess just what does that mean? You don't have to explain the whole table, just what does unbilled services?
So those are things that we've done for the city. There, you'll see different categories: fiber optics, new connections, street lights, trouble calls. There's a lot of activities that we do for the city. Work orders, routine maintenance or new projects, new connections that we do for the city. And we have not been billing them for those services. We had not been billing them. And there is some discussions with the joint committee between the city and PUB. So there were some discussions that came out of those meetings as far as memorializing the things that we do for the city and the things that the city does for PUB and making sure that we're on an even footing with them.
We're just trying to understand what money is being spent and where a little better. And so knowing that we are providing these services to the city, and also knowing that the city is providing services to us is very important, and understanding, quantifying that amount has been of significant importance.
Okay, so there are also, I guess I'm trying to understand how this is not in conflict with the bond ordinance. In that, we're not allowed to provide free services.
Well, the idea is that we want to come in harmony with the bond ordinance by figuring out what they're billing or what they've done, figuring out what we've done, and then figure out what the is. Or if we zero out pretty close to perfect. So we just realized we don't have enough information now. And I believe our CFO, Mike, and their CFO, Mike, are sitting down and discussing this.
We're working on that, but effective November of 2022, we stopped providing those free services and we started billing them. So that's the second table that you see there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay?
And they, just for the record, we've been trying to clarify some of these gray areas that, some of these historical, relationships with the city. A new administration, a new, team, and we're working, through this with the city, to make sure we get our.
Absolutely. And this is not a stopping of services. We aren't trying to discontinue anything. We're not trying to increase our revenue stream. We're just trying to memorialize exactly what's happening. So, we're able to understand our exact financial position and report it outwards.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I think this is it for you, Monica. Maybe. We have the BTX fiber project installation repair, Mr. Estrada.
Good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Jaime Estrada, the Director of Water Wastewater Operations. Just want to give you a quick update on the BTXC white fiber project. I know last month we didn't bring anything to you all. There was some minor hits, but they weren't really major. Just on a recap, since March 28th, 2023 to September 9th, which is this past weekend, we've had a total of 42 strikes with basically it amounts to about a little over $616,000 worth of damages. That does not account for my time, executive management's time, or PR's time in putting the communications together and all that. So it's just the damage itself and the repairs. This weeks, we did have a total of 8 strikes from August the 30th to September 9th. So I'm in constant communication with Dodo on it. Every time we get a strike, I'll forward it to him. Dodo Garcia, he's the Director for Engineering and Public Works for the city. He did tell me that they put a pause on the contractor while we evaluate processes, to make sure maybe we got some more things in place to minimize these strikes. But I'm thinking it's new contractors coming in because they have dismissed some of the subs that they're using. So I think it's new ones coming in, and I think it's just protocol. But we need to make sure that we're on the same page when moving forward. He did discuss other things he's looking at. I just don't want to discuss it 'cause I don't know exactly where he's at on it yet, but I will be meeting with him this week so that we're both on the same page moving forward when we bring back BTX. This,
No, I have a funny comment, but
yeah,
what I think is funny.
that's right. Yeah, but this past couple of weeks was a pretty rough one. So we did have a total of 8 strikes, and I'm gonna go over to Frank Valdez. He's our water wastewater operation and construction manager. He's gonna go over those 8 strikes. So there's some pictures say 1,000 words, right? So there's a couple of pictures there. I'll have him pause some of them so he can show you what we see.
Good afternoon, Chairman, and members of the board. Mr. Estrada said, I'm Francisco Valdez. I'm the manager for water, wastewater operations and construction. So we've been handling the BTX strikes over since March. I'm gonna go over these 8 strikes. 8:30 on Padre Island Highway, they hit a 1 1/4 pipe. It affected one customer for 2 hours. So that wasn't as bad as others, but our crews took care of it. This other one was in Kings High. This was on 9/2. They hit an 8-inch PVC pipe that would feed three little plazas on Kings Highway, affecting about 20 customers. They were effective for 12 hours. The good thing about it was after 5 o'clock, so they closed, right? Except one beauty salon, they came out and told us to restore the water. They had some people getting their hair done, so we did that. We complied, and our crews took care of it. The next one, this is another a 9/5. They hit a 3/4 line. It was only a preparation. It didn't affect no customers whatsoever. So the water was out for 2 hours, but again, it was a preparation. They didn't affect no residential.
Sorry, the preparation pipe?
Yeah, sometimes services are left way before anything's built, and they prepare and they leave the service there. So we repaired it, and it's still there, just in case for the future. This next one was again on 9/5. This was over here by 1455 Robin Hood Drive by the guard shack here in the back. It was a service line for a spigot for an old well we had there in the old yard. Again, it wasn't feeding anybody. It was a spigot, but it wasn't spotted, so we repaired it. No customers affected in that time. This other one was in 9/7. Again, over here by 445 Robin Hood Drive. Affected 2 customers, affected SCADA building, and affected a residential home that's over here back on by Home Depot. And the water was off for about 4 hours. It got restored. This was in the late evening, in the morning. So there were 2 affected, and we took care of it in 4 hours, the crew up there. 1015 East Washington. This is a gravity sewer line, a 6-inch. So there was discovered on 9/7. BTX went through there a couple of weeks ago, I believe, last month. Being a sewer gravity line, we don't know if it was struck or when was it struck. The alley started caving in, so that's why the city reported it. So we went out there and discovered that BTX did hit that 6-inch sewer line. One customer was affected and everything was restored in 5 hours. Keep in mind, sewer gravity lines, we don't know how many have they been hit. I don't know if they've hit manholes or 6-inch lines or gravity lines up to clogs come in. Maybe it can take a month, 2 months, 3 months, we don't know. Or if the dirt settles, that's when we're gonna be finding out. So hopefully there's not many, but this is one of them. This is the first one, actually. Robindale Road, this was our 16-inch asbestos line along Robindale, close to our north plant, sewer plant. As you can see there, one of the picture, you can actually see the reamer, how close it is to the main. So they strike the actual coupling. So you can see the coupling, they broke it off. So that was the cause of the break there. It says here, we affected 6 customers. There are some warehouses around there, Alamo Iron Works, Cowan Industries. We found out that there is a loop that gives services to those warehouses. So they were not affected actually, but we still put them just in case. It was taken care of in 7 hours. Next one. The next day, 9/9, again, the 16-inch water line. They weren't there drilling anymore. It was the coupling that didn't give out that on Friday. So it gave out on Saturday. So as you can see, the coupling was broken. And you can see the picture there on the left-hand side. You can actually see the reamer where it was hitting the asbestos line. You see those little wedges there? That's the reamer hitting the line. So it took out 2 couplings. Those pipes are about 13 feet long. So it took the first one, it hit the other one, but we didn't actually excavate it that day. We concentrated on the actual leak. And that gave out actually on Saturday. So crews went out there. We had a crew in another emergency line break. So it took a little while to get over there, but we got it done. We affected 13 hours because that line actually sagged a little bit. So we had to readjust it because of the pressure. It undermined the line. So a 16-inch asbestos pipe is pretty heavy. So to readjust it and put that new repair clamp on it, and they got it. Again, we only affected the north plant, the sewer plant. Because the other ones, like I said, that loop that we found, so it feeds all those warehouses.
That's 2 million gallons.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, like again,
Can you put that into context?
excuse me?
What 2 million gallons?
I can tell you what SRWA does, because I was just in that board meeting a few hours ago. It's about, let's say, 7 million gallons per day. And let's say it covers about 25% of Brownfield's water. So 7 million, 28 million gallons. This is a significant percentage, almost just under 10% of the water produced in Brownsville.
The average households, we have them at 10,000 gallons a month, so it's 200. 200.
On a month.
A lot of monthly consumption.
Wow.
It's significant.
Frank, when I'm looking at this and you have the date of the incident, you have a service request, you have a work order,
Yes,
contractor, AC Construction,
yes.
where that person, that contract, that construction or that contractor is who?
Subcontractor. for
Subcontractors
BTX
that are working with P&B for repairs?
No,
No,
the AC contractors,
They're the ones that are out.
subcontractors for BTX fiber
Okay.
project.
All right.
Yeah, they got subcontractors out there. They've got 9 of them.
Are these many mistakes consistent with industry standards?
On the what, I'm sorry?
Like, are these many strikes on the water line? Is this consistent with industry standards? Like whenever we have a project, like the BTX fiber
This
being
is-
installed, is this what is expected?
We've had contractors come by Brownsville over the years, drilling, AT&T and other contractors. is the worst I've seen. Like, like the director says, there's some new subcontractors, they drill and they do some windows to spot. They've been provided maps, right? And we're out there. I got my staff out there. I myself are out there. I talk to the subcontractor that if you see a line, a blue line, you gotta look for the line. You gotta look for the water. They say, no, call us. And we'll try to guide them as much as we can. Some lines, we didn't put them underground, right? So, but we help them out. We're there to help them out.
And part of the contract for BTX, they're supposed to keep 2 foot clearance from our pipelines. So if they don't see it, with our trunk maps that we're providing them, they can see that there's lines there. So if it's not marked, they're supposed to call us so we can go out there and identify it before they start drilling.
Are you guys sitting in this, new, yeah, we have a stand down with drilling right now. All the contractors are, yeah, all the new contractors, I guess, are being trained by the city. Are you guys sitting in on that?
Sitting in, and so I'm gonna get with the Goro to see where exactly we are. And then,
Okay.
I'll see, I know that we've met with the BTX contractor. We're on a call every week to discuss the whole BTX contract. We discuss strikes, everything else going on with it, communications, everything else that goes along with it. But this particular case, it just, I mean, I think there's a new contractor that came in, not following the protocol, because we were doing pretty good without any strikes for a while.
Yeah, you mentioned, that last week we had the first, reported, gravity line.
Yes.
The strike that we came across. Obviously, if it's a force main or a water line, it's gonna be
Yeah,
pretty
that-
obvious.
Yeah, that's gonna
Right.
be, but
Is there a, are they obligated to report if they accidentally strike a gravity line? I mean,
if they know they strike the gravity line.
clearly it's not on the list, so.
It's the gravity lines, they're gonna strike it and nothing's gonna come out.
No, I realize
There's,
that.
there's nothing gonna come out, it's just,
Yeah.
But if they know they struck it, do they have to?
they're not gonna know. With the size of that reamer they're using,
They won't.
They won't know.
not on a gravity line.
Other than maybe the smell.
Yeah.
So it's something that the city will find out later.
Well, not only the city, but maybe a customer or ourselves, or if you see the ground that's going down, something's going on there. Or a street, if you see a hole where,
Yeah.
yeah, it becomes single.
Well, a majority of,
Very-
of these hit strikes are from R&R pipeline. Are they fairly new or have they done work before?
I'm not familiar with them, to
No,
tell you the truth. No, sir.
the majority of them are from them.
Can we feed this particular graph or chart back to the city just so that they see there is the problematic countries?
Oh, definitely. I'll share with Roto. I've shared this
Can y'all hear me? I can't hear y'all.
It affects our reliability, how good we are maintaining service to our customers. Would it be possible to have whoever is at the city that is responsible for overseeing these contractors come in and give us an update next month?
Sure, I'll ask Dora. As a matter of fact, I was going to invite him for today's meeting, but it was a short notice for me because I got it on Friday, we're going to present. But I will get with Dodo, see if he can come up and give us an update. And I'll get with him also this week. So I need to see what he's going to be putting in place. As far as us, we're trying our best to get we got the 10-year, the 10-day forecast. So we provide all those maps ahead of time. We're providing them to the contractor, the subcontractors, to the city, to everybody that needs it. So on top of that, that's the other measure we took. On top of that, they've got our numbers too. So they're supposed to call us whenever they're going to go out there and drill. And so actually here in Robindale, our staff was out there and to watch out for the lines, but they still didn't.
And for the record, the city manager has presented to this board on this topic, along with Dodo, the city engineer. We've had him here. We've talked to him. We've considered.
I was here when there was a presentation,
Yeah.
but if, this is happening and apparently might be getting worse, it might be time to invite them back.
Yeah, it's like I mentioned, we were doing very well. Because we hadn't come, it was only that service line here and there, and they're going to hit the service lines. We're not going to avoid all the hits. There's going to be some. But we were doing very well. I just think because they did let go some of the other subs. So they got new ones in. I'm thinking that might be the issue. I'm not 100% sure. I might be talking out.
How much longer for this project?
I'm not, I know they were supposed to finish by the end of September, the first ring, but my understanding is a 3-year project.
So, Heyman, I understand you like talking to us, but you can talk to us about anything. It doesn't need to be about the validity of those, those hits. But no, we appreciate, I don't know if I've said this yet. I tend to say this. The line crews that have gone out there and heroically, in all kinds of adverse conditions, worked overnight in, the blazing sun to restore these services as fast as possible to our to our ratepayers. So we do really appreciate that. We also, I want to say this out loud. We do appreciate that the city has asked the contractors to stand down and, sit down and figure out what's going on. I think we should use this pause as effectively as possible. Anything we can do to get in with the contractors, to chat with them, to talk about, just anything else that they may need to know, make them feel comfortable calling us whenever there's a question. We should do that while there's little.
I will reach out to Laura, like I said, I will be meeting with him and see what he's got planned.
Thank you.
Just a comment on the cost. I mean, it sounds like there's additional costs that we're not contemplating. Maybe you want to consider that, or if it's overtime, maybe bring in multiple crews. Maybe that's not the parts, necessarily, but just for you to consider that, it'll give us a better idea of the effort.
Yeah, all the cruise times are accounted for, because they got to charge to the work order. So we have accounted, but what we don't account for is our other staff, our PR staff, or ticket management, my time. I'm up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning with the guys, and I'm going back and forth. I need to make sure they're safe, make sure that they're shifting out, things of that nature that I don't want to run into the ground either. So, but I do appreciate them. Wish I could do more for them, but.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for that
Thank you very much.
presentation and information. We have Mr. Eddie Hernandez on a brief AMI update.
It's up to the wishes of the board. I know the last one was informational item, but we have Eddie here. If you'd like for him to give a brief update, we can keep it to 5 minutes. I know this last item was very important for the board, and several of you had been asking about this.
I think if Eddie can give us a 5-minute update, we know that there's going to be further information on our program review on the AMI. But I know Eddie knows the content of this subject very well.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, quick project overview. The prime on the contract is Landis and Gear. They'll handle the AMI system, the communications, and the electric meters. On the water side, Badger Meter is the vendor we're using there for taking the information in. In other words, all the data that comes in and housing the reads that come in from the meters. That'll be SmartWorks. They'll be providing the meter data management system. And Allegiant is the contractor who's actually going to come in and install the meters, the electric and water meters. Right now, we're probably a couple of weeks behind schedule that we'd like to be. The main reason is the contracting. It's just taking us a little bit longer than we would like. To Spencer Fain's credit, they've been very helpful. We're really waiting on the vendor right now. The good news is that we have 3 of the 4 contracts pretty much buttoned up. We're trying to get the 4th one done. We're hoping to take it to committee before the month is out, and then hopefully bring it to the October board meeting to get them approved and get moving. But it's just dotting the i's and crossing the t's, because you got to remember, there's 8 different contracts and statements of work and maintenance agreements. So this is what's going to govern not only the purchase of the systems from this point forward. So that's what's the devil's in the details there.
So we're about a year into the whole process. Sorry, I wasn't going to ask questions since last time. Do we still feel like we're going to hold to minus a few weeks here or there, hold to the original schedule?
Well, where we think we can make up time is with Allegiant on the installation. They're a pretty big outfit, and if we can get that, and they have different crews. In other words, they don't have just one crew that does electric and water. They can bring in. They have different crews that work on different things. So we're hoping to be able to make up some time once we get that rolling. But right now we're sitting about, like I said, about 2 to 3 weeks behind. And this is just kind of shows the timeline of the scheduling. And where you see IDA, that's initial area. So IDA and pilot kind of interchangeably. So what we're hoping to do is now the IDA did get pushed back from originally we were hoping to do that like in March and April. That's gotten pushed back to July. But that a large part of that was just because of the switching firms, because we were about halfway through, and then the board chose to go with Spencer Fain, so they had to get up to speed. And again, to their credit, they've done a really good job. But we hope to get the IDA up in July. That's where we'll test everything, and with about 6,000 meters on the electric and water side, and that's when the rubber meets the pavement, and we'll know what works and what doesn't work. And that will be the last point where we make a go, no go decision. This is a brief overview on the project. To walk you through the different items that have been completed. I won't read the whole thing, but it's in your packet, the major accomplishments. There's been a lot of work with staff, so I do want to point out that even though we're still working on contracts, we're pursuing multiple paths at the same time. So we've been working with our staff on change management and organizational, and also looking at the how we do things. In other words, what's the current process? So we pull everybody into a room. What's the process for connecting a meter? How do we work with customers? Walking through every single process and documenting that, because we need to know how we do it before we change it. And then working on the new processes. So all that's been going on with staff while we've been waiting on the contracts to get finished. And right now there are 2 items of risk that we're looking at. If you look over here at the our right-hand side is the schedule, which we just talked about. We're a couple of weeks behind on that. And then the second thing on the financials aspect, the one concern that we have there is water meters. Not the meters themselves, but really the housing. If you notice in front of your house, there's a little pit that the meter sits in. Some of those, because of the nature of Brownsville, and some of those are very old, Some of them are sunken and it costs, we may have to raise them and it's right now, we're going to have the meter readers do a survey of all the meters also to find out, are they steel lids or plastic lids? Because we can't drill steel lids. They're pretty thick. Because the radio has to come through the lid and it sits on top of the lid. So we're going to take a look at that. The other thing we're going to take a look at is the housings themselves. Do they need to be raised or not? The financial impact there, we're 900,000 to 6 million. Just that's the range. I mean, just on estimates. So what we're going to do is do our survey so that we can get a finer number on that.
So, I'd like to be involved in that, just as somebody who actually has a steel lid on my meter. I'm aware of their geometry, and there are ways to get an antenna, in and out of that. I think without swearing to anything, so it's worth a conversation.
Okay.
Eddie, when you mentioned the cost of 900,000 to maybe $6 million, you're talking about retrofitting some of those water meters or bringing them up? Is that a separate budget?
Yes,
Item?
that would be in addition to, that was something that we were not aware of when we put the budget of the project together. So that's why it's a big number. And that's one of the reasons we're going to do a citywide survey and try to find out what.
I wish we had understood a little bit of that prior to this project taking off, and I know it's too late, but
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's the physical condition of
I understand.
those things themselves, of those installations themselves. Those are the only two issues that have popped up. Everything else is looking pretty good. You can see the schedule down here. Our official start date was January of 2023. Our planned end date is July of 2026. We're planning on starting the IDA. I would say closer to June and July than April of this coming year. And so far, this is what the budget looks like. We have approximately a $30 million budget. We've spent 400,000 because two things that really worked on as far as expenditure of funds have been the consultants and the attorneys. Until we get that done, we can't do anything. All the rest has been in-house work with staff, working on process and procedures and how we're going to get things done. And I believe that's the last slide. Any other questions?
Any questions from the board on this item? If that'll be it. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you.
I'll move from the AMI update to public comments.
No public comments.
We have no public comment today. We'll continue with the items for individual consideration. We have item number 2, consideration and possible action of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board fiscal year 2024 proposed operations and maintenance and capital budgets. Mr. Pettis, you have George?
Yes, Mr. Rangel will be presenting this item.
Okay.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is George Rangel. I'm the finance manager. I will continue consideration item number 2. During the weeks of August 21st and August 28th, briefings were held with individual board members to review the draft O&M and capital budgets. BPUB staff also presented the proposed fiscal year 24 O&M budget and CIP budget to the board during a workshop on September 6, 2023. The proposed O&M budget totals $259,510,105 and provides debt service coverage ratios of 1.89 times on a combined basis and individual ratios of electric, water, and wastewater of 1.79 times, 2.09 times, and 2.16 times debt service coverage respectively. The proposed capital improvement spending plan total is $91,717,365 and supported with improvement funds of $27.4 million, $9.2 million of prior year surplus, $35.8 million in commercial paper, $1.4 million in Resaca PCIP funding, $3.8 million in impact fees, and $4.1 million in grants. Action, BPUB staff recommends approval of the BPUB fiscal year 2024 proposed O&M and CIP budgets. We did provide as supplemental information the presentation that I gave during the board workshop last week. So if there are any questions, I can discuss that at this time or,
Well, I mean, this item is one that we've all been presented with. We've had workshops. So the administration has a recommendation. Do we have any motions?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Dr. Holman. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Motion passes unanimously. Okay.
thank you very much.
We have item number 3, consideration of possible action on a resolution requesting the city commission amend section 102-81 of the Code of Ordinances entitled Resaca Fee to provide for adjustment to said Resaca fee. This item presented.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. On March 14, 2022, the BPUB board approved the resolution approving the water, wastewater, and a Resaca fee study. Subsequently, on May the 3rd, and this was through second hearing, the city commission approved city ordinance number 2022-1701, adopting a Resaca fee, which is supposed to increase from the current rate of $6.25 to $10 effective January 1st of 2024. BPUB staff has further reviewed the Resaca fee and has determined that currently the Resaca fund has adequate funding in place to fulfill our current grant matching requirements, and will reassess the fee once the grant funds from the United States Army Corps of Engineers are appropriated. In the meantime, BPUB requests that the city commission adopt an ordinance fixing the Resaca fee at $6.25 without implementing the increases contemplated by city ordinance 2022-1. A proposed ordinance to that effect is attached. So at this time, BPUB staff recommends approval to execute the resolution requesting the city commission of the city of Brownsville, Texas, adopt the aforementioned recommendation by passing an appropriate ordinance amending section 102-81 of the city's code of ordinances such that the Resaca fee remain fixed in the amount of $6.25, and that said amount not be increased on January 1, 2024 and January 1, 2026.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, this is, of course, an item that's brought a lot of interest. Are there any comments or further discussion about this item, the board members? Just for the record, the current fee is $6.25. Will stay in place through the rest of this year, October, November, December, and it'll continue into January if
2024.
we have I guess if we have some sort of resolution or some sort of agreement with the city of Brownsville on this ordinance.
Correct.
Make a motion?
We have a motion by Dr. Samota, second by Mr. Sampaio. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Pettis.
Thank you.
Item number 4, consideration possible approval of a sponsorship request from the Brownsville Museum of Fine Arts. Mr. Greenfield.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. I'm introducing this sponsorship request from the Brownsville Museum of Fine Art. It's a $25,000 request. We do have a representative from the zoo here. If y'all have the request letter, it should be in y'all's board packet, and she also.
Zoo or?
From the museum.
I'm sorry, did I say the zoo? From the museum? We have a representative from the Brownsville Museum of Fine Art who is here, who can answer any questions. The request letter that they sent should be in your board packet, and we also have a presentation as well. If y'all have any questions about it.
Any questions for the board as we move forward on a sponsorship for the Brownsville Museum? We have someone from the Brownsville Museum to do a presentation, or?
Yes, we have.
How many sponsorships like this do you do in a year?
How many sponsorships in general, or when you say like this, I
guess this amount or greater.
This amount, I say maybe 3 or 4. We have the Brownsville Museum of Fine Art, Gladys Porter Zoo, and the Children's Museum of Brownsville.
You know, it might be useful just to send out in an email that I remember we had a list of this last year about January or so that you guys presented to us. Might be good just to circulate that again.
And in the budget, sorry, where does this come out of? Like, why would it be under
It's our sponsorship budget.
sponsorship? And what's the total budgeted for the year?
The beginning of this fiscal, it was, we had 50,000 that was put aside, and then we had an additional 50,000 that was added a little bit later. Typically, we usually start the fiscal year with a $100,000 sponsorship budget.
And Ryan, just for clarification, the source of this funding comes from, is this internal PUB money or?
Correct. Correct. This is money that we set aside at the beginning of each fiscal specifically for
Sponsorship, promote PUB and of course, positive.
Yes, sir.
Right. All right, we have, I know we have someone here from the,
Good afternoon.
Hi.
I'm not that tall. Good afternoon. I'm Deyanira Ramirez, Executive Director of the Brownsville Museum of Fine Art. And on behalf of the Board of Directors, staff, and the museum community, I'm here to request the sponsorship. The Brownsville PUB has been serving the community as well as the museum. And the support that we received in the past 5 years has been very significant for the museum community. With those funds, what we're doing is helping our community enrich them with new cultural art, educational programs, and it's just has the Brownsville PUB exhibit for the Resacas of Brownsville. We have 30 artists participating, expressing the way they see the Resacas through the art. At the same time, a lot of kids and students visit the museum and learn a little bit more about the Resacas and what PUB is doing in order to restore those green areas and the wildlife. And our side, what we do is encourage the community to respect those areas, to encourage the community to visit those and conserve those. In the package that you may have, there's some information regarding the 2022 year. Last year, we present 20 art exhibitions. 5 of those were in collaboration with any other organization, either nonprofits or private. One of that is with PUB. We also did a presentation in our educational programs for students during our guitar lessons and summer camps. There is something that we've been doing year after year. The museum is going to turn 17 years on that new location, downtown Brownsville in the Middle Culture District. And the only reason that I'm here representing my organization is to continue having that partnership with Brownsville PUB.
thank you.
And maybe you have any questions for?
Any questions or comments about this sponsorship?
Are sponsorships like open to any organization? Is there like an open process for an organization to apply?
Essentially, anyone can make a request. We do have certain guidelines in place. It does need to be a nonprofit organization. They need to be able to provide 501c3 and W-9 letters to confirm that. And then we also have some guidelines as far as it needs to be an event or an organization that is going to, we feel, bring benefit to the community. That's also, we have some other, I'd say, particular categories that we like to look at. Specifically, education is one of the main ones. Scholarships, internships, those kinds of things definitely ends up getting stressed a little bit more. And certainly any event that kind of relates specifically to BPUB. So things about maybe water, electric conservation, specifically maybe STEM education, things like that.
And so, and you don't get many of those requests?
We do get past the year.
Okay.
Um, uh, Each one we kind of have to look at and decide, essentially look and figure out what does each sponsorship tier get? How much do we want to end up putting into it? And so you just kind of have to look and juggle throughout the year, the requests. A lot of them, I guess fortunately, as far as planning, a lot of groups we can kind of rely on, year after year, to have certain events, and receive those requests in. But we're certainly open for additional requests.
Ryan, on this, 25,000, I've seen we've been giving every year on the year. This is of the $100,000, right?
Correct, correct.
Okay. All right. I think it's something very valuable to have, to be honest.
Well, we appreciate, of course, from the presenter from the museum and Mr. Greenfield. So we have before us a consideration on this item for sponsorship request. Any further discussion or have a motion? Move to approve. We have moved to approve by Mr. Sampaio, second by Dr. Holman. All those in favor to,
Excuse me, I do need a motion to state the amount of the sponsorship. My apologies for that. We should have been a little bit clearer. I know we have a motion to approve and not to approve, so we would like to clarify the amount.
25,000.
It's the wishes of the board.
The request
As passed.
was 25,000, and then we defer to the board for the recommendation.
I move to approve the full 25,000 and step on Patricia's toes.
We have a motion to approve as articulated by Dr. Holman, second by Mr. Sampaio. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Mr. Greenfield, thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Ryan.
the young lady from the museum.
Thank you very much.
Thank
And just consider that I have another job because I was introduced as a zoo representative. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we're getting to number 5, consideration possible action on Brownsville Public Utility Board printing and mailing services for bills and reminder notices.
Good afternoon.
Today,
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board. My name is Estrella Solórzano. I am the Director of Customer Services. With me today is Joe Amaya. He's the Billing and Collections Manager for BPUB. We are presenting today an RFP for the printing and mailing services for the billing department. The billing department did request proposals. We did receive 7 proposals back. Out of those 7 proposals, we did present the top 3 ranked vendors to this, to the committee at the Facilities and Programs Committee meeting. We provide a recommendation. We have gone back and received clarification regarding the implementation cost if we were to select a new vendor tonight. We did receive clarification stating that those implementation fees would be waived. For that reason, I'm here today presenting a recommendation for BPUB. Staff recommends approval to negotiate a 1-year contract with DataPros for BPUB's monthly printing and mailing services for bills and reminder notices in the amount of $486,000. I do want to stress that DataPros was the top-ranked vendor as well as the most cost-efficient. The cost of this contract, based on the amount of pieces that we provided in the proposal, would be a lower contract to what we currently have.
okay, so administration today, you're making a recommendation?
Yes,
Can you
I can
that
read it again.
please?
The BPUB staff recommends approval to negotiate a 1-year contract with DataPros for BPUB's monthly printing and mailing services for bills and services, notices in the amount of $486,000.
Okay, any further discussion on this item? I know we had it in committee, we reviewed it. Okay, do we have a motion?
Move to approve. I'll second.
We have a motion to approve and a second by Dr. Holman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against say nay. Motion passes today. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
At this time, we have 4 items for consideration in executive. I'm going to go ahead and read the 4 items. Number 1, meeting with board legal counsel for advice about contemplated and pending court and administrative litigation and on matters which the duty to turn in the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct conflict with chapter 551, section 551.071. Item number 2, discussion and consultation with board counsel of any pending litigation against Brownsville Public Utilities Board, section 551.0. Number 3, presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation of information upon pricing of purchase power generation and fuel and their impact upon the fuel purchase, energy, and marketing charge and possible discussion, section 551.086. Then number 4, possible discussion with council on the Resaca Restoration Program, section 551.071. Can I have a motion to move into executive?
So move.
We have a motion by Mr. Pompayo, a second by,
I didn't say. We-
a second by Dr. Sambueta. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. All those against it, nay. The motion passes. We'll be moving into executive. What time is it? It's 6:01. Thank you.
Nope, you gotta turn on the mic. I'm good for something.
Okay, are we okay to go? Okay, we're back from executive. At this time, we do not have any items to advance. So therefore, is there any discussion and or request for future agenda items?
Small request here, and as somebody who's been in these meetings virtually, and then some of the feedback I heard today from Mr. Raines over there, former 8th grade teacher. The audio doesn't pick up very well sometimes, and so we have to speak directly in the microphone, but even then, we may not have the best microphones for this particular application. It's worth asking the question, but just want to throw it out there.
Okay, so let me just make sure.
We'll look into how we can upgrade the systems. I know this is a new facility, and I have heard that feedback on, there's an echo apparently.
Yeah. All right, that's one item that Dr. Holman has brought to our attention. Any other future agenda items, Mr. Martinez or Dr. Samota? All right, with that in mind, I'll entertain motions to adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn and second by Dr. Holman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Motion passes. This meeting is adjourned. It is now 7:19. Thank you.
Thank you.